the commuter and the comet. You know the feeling, the relentless grind of the morning commute. For Ethan, it was always the 7:45 a.m. train out of the suburbs. Every day was a blur of lukewarm coffee, stiff collars, and the faint, low hum of the rail car. He was a creature of habit. Same car, same window seat, same tired stare at the phone screen. He worked in market analysis downtown. His life was precise, measured, and, frankly, predictable. But one Tuesday morning, everything shifted. He was running late, a spilled coffee disaster. He had to rush onto the train just as the doors hissed shut. His usual seat was taken, forcing him to stand near the door, clutching a pole. And that's when he saw her. She was sitting opposite him, not on a phone, but reading a thick, paperback book with a battered cover. Her hair was the color of dark caramel, pulled back loosely, and she had a slight, thoughtful furrow in her brow as she read. She was dressed simply, a soft blue sweater and faded jeans. And for Ethan, the world stopped entirely. The roar of the train vanished. The blurry commuters ceased to exist. All that remained was the quiet intensity of her focus. It wasn't just physical attraction. It was a bizarre, overwhelming recognition, as if his whole life had been preparation for this one glance. He didn't just see her. He felt the pull of her gravity. She reached up, tucked a stray piece of hair behind her ear, and for a fleeting, terrifying second, her eyes flicked up and met his. They were the color of warm hazel, and they held his gaze for only a beat. But in that beat, Ethan's stomach dropped out. He felt like a clumsy teenager. She offered a tiny, polite, almost imperceptible half-smile, a brief acknowledgement of his staring. Then she was back to her book. Ethan, the man who analyzed market trends for a living, had just had his own internal market completely crash. He didn't know her name, her job, or even her coffee order, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was in love. For the next week, Ethan's entire routine revolved around the faint hope of seeing the 7:45 a.m. miracle again. He arrived early, he scoped out different cars, he even risked the window seat hoping she would sit opposite. Nothing. The spot she had occupied remained empty. The train was back to its tedious, predictable rhythm. He started carrying his own book, a dusty copy of Moby Dick, hoping to mimic the quiet focus she possessed. It didn't work. His mind was a frantic spreadsheet of what-ifs. What if she was a tourist? What if she took a different route now? What if she thought I was a creep for staring? The worst part was the memory of that half-smile. It haunted him, felt like a promise unfulfilled. He had been given a glimpse of something wonderful and then immediately snatched away. He had failed the ultimate test of bravery. He hadn't moved. He hadn't spoken. He hadn't done anything but stare like a lovesick fool. He decided that this was fate's cruel joke, showing him the perfect woman just long enough to prove how boring his single life was. He resigned himself to the fact that he would spend the rest of his commute staring at people who looked like the opposite of her. 2 weeks after the train encounter, Ethan was having a truly awful day at work. A crucial presentation had gone sideways, and he was mentally kicking himself as he headed to the 15th floor conference room to meet with the executive strategy team. He pushed the heavy oak door open, late and flustered, muttering an apology under his breath. He looked up at the long mahogany table where his manager, David, and the CEO were already seated. And sitting right beside the CEO, looking entirely comfortable, calm, and professional, was her. The world didn't stop this time. It exploded. She wasn't wearing a soft sweater. She was wearing a sharp, tailored blazer. Her hair was perfectly styled, and instead of a paperback, she was holding a stack of impressive financial reports. David cleared his throat and gestured toward her with an easy smile. "Ethan, glad you made it. This is Clara Hayes. She's been brought in by the executive team to spearhead the new efficiency overhaul. She's basically your new department head on this project." Clara stood up and extended her hand across the table. Her movement was graceful and confident. "Ethan," she said, her voice clear and precise, "it's a pleasure to finally meet you officially. I recognize you from the train. You have the best window seat." Ethan's mind was blank. All the witty lines he'd rehearsed in the mirror, all the financial jargon he'd mastered, evaporated. The window seat, he stammered, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm and cool. Yes, you were reading Moby Dick. Wait, no, you were reading something else. I was reading Moby Dick. Clara laughed, a low, genuine sound that felt like music to him. I was reading 100 Years of Solitude. And yes, I saw you trying very hard to look intellectual that week. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. It was cute. You look much better in your natural state of mild panic. The rest of the meeting was torture. Ethan couldn't focus on amortization or restructuring. He could only focus on the incredible, terrifying, and exhilarating fact that the miracle of the train was now his professional superior, and she remembered his failed attempts to impress her. Over the next few weeks, they worked intensely together. Their office relationship was sharp and focused. They talked strategy, budgets, and deadlines. But beneath the surface, the chemistry was undeniable. Their ideas meshed perfectly. They finished each other's sentences during late-night brainstorming sessions. One Friday evening, long after everyone else had gone home, they were cleaning up charts in the conference room. So, Ethan finally ventured, feeling that familiar knot of fear about the train. Did you ever wonder why I stared so much? Clara paused, holding a stack of papers. She looked him directly in the eye, without the armor of professionalism. I didn't wonder, Ethan, she admitted softly. I knew, because when I looked up and saw you standing there, running late, disheveled, but with that look on your face, I was so mad at myself for taking that quiet, lovely moment and hiding it behind a book. She took a step closer, resting the reports on the table. You looked like a man who was about to realize he was on the wrong train. But then, for the first time, realizing he might be exactly where he was supposed to be, Ethan finally found his footing. He didn't stammer. He didn't overthink the market analysis. That's exactly right, he said. And the only problem with the window seat now is that it's 2 seats too far away from where I want to be. She smiled, the kind of open, genuine smile that made his earlier memory of the half-smile look dull by comparison. Well, lucky for you, she said, stepping around the table. In an office setting, we have much better options for seat selection. Clara's heels clicked softly on the conference room floor as she came to stand beside him. The office was empty now, the only light spilling in from the skyline, painting silver reflections across the glass table. Ethan swallowed, pulse quickening. Is this where I'm supposed to choose a seat? Clara gave him a knowing smirk. I'd say you've been standing long enough. He smiled, the shy, lopsided kind that was all him, and pulled out a chair. You're right. I think I'll sit here. He chose the chair next to hers. Not across, not apart, next to. Close enough that, when she laughed quietly, he could feel the warmth of it. They sat for a long moment, the city humming below, the kind of silence that only 2 people on the same wavelength can share. Finally, Clara broke it. Do you ever think about that morning? Every day, he said honestly. I almost spilled my coffee again this morning just thinking about it. She laughed softly. You know, I almost didn't take that train. I was supposed to carpool that day. Then I guess, Ethan said, tilting his head, I should thank your carpool for canceling. She leaned back, watching him with that same unreadable expression she had on the train. Except now, it was filled with warmth. You could thank me over dinner instead. Ethan blinked. Wait, was that? Yes, she interrupted, amused. That was an invitation. His grin was uncontainable. Then yes, 1,000 times yes. 2 nights later, they met again. Not in an office or on a train, but beneath the open sky. Clara had insisted on it. You work under fluorescent lights all day. You need to remember what real light looks like. They drove just outside the city, to a quiet park overlooking the river. The air was crisp, and the skyline shimmered like a constellation of glass. Ethan set down a small thermos. Coffee? Clara smiled. Still risking spills for romance, huh? He shrugged. Some habits are worth keeping. They sat on a bench, shoulder to shoulder, the silence between them comfortable and full. Above, the night was clear, impossibly clear, and then, right on cue, a streak of silver light carved through the dark. "The comet," she whispered. Ethan followed her gaze. "You planned that, didn't you?" "Maybe," she said, eyes still on the sky. "Or maybe the universe finally decided to give punctuality a break." He laughed quietly, then turned to her. "You know, I used to think life was about making the right calculations. But ever since that morning, I've been thinking maybe it's about missing the train on purpose." She looked at him then, really looked at him, no corporate mask, no half-smile, just that same quiet focus he'd fallen for on the 7:45. "I think," she said softly, "you finally got on the right one." And before the words could dissolve into the night air, he kissed her, gentle at first, then certain. The comet burned across the sky, reflected in the river below, brief, beautiful, and unforgettable. Months later, the 7:45 train was as crowded as ever. The same faces, the same coffee cups, the same dull announcements. Except this time, in the second car from the front, two familiar commuters sat side by side. Ethan was reading Love in the Time of Cholera. Clara leaned against his shoulder, eyes closed, half asleep, the morning light brushing her hair gold. When the conductor announced the next stop, Ethan turned a page and smiled. "Funny," he murmured. "I used to think commuting was the dullest part of my day." Clara didn't open her eyes, just smiled sleepily. "That's because you didn't know who you'd be sitting next to." The train rattled on, the world outside a blur. But for them, time had finally slowed down, and somewhere far beyond the clouds, a comet traced another path through the dawn, silent, fleeting, and perfect.